Welcome to the introduction to transfer pricing. This is a series of short videos where we cover the topics of transfer pricing fundamentals. In today's video, we're going to talk about some of the transfer pricing methods, and in particular, we're going to talk about the very first method in the regulations, the comparable uncontrolled price method. It's also in the OECD guidelines under the same name, and it's commonly referred to as a CUP. Now we're going to go back to the example we've been using throughout this series of videos, and the example is Japan Co. is selling to the UK Co. And at a price of £7 per unit. I'm going to give a little more detail about Japan Co.'s financial statement and show you breaking out their expenses between COGS and the operating expenses. But that's not really critical to this analysis because here we're talking about a comparable uncontrolled price. And that's asking the question, is the £7 per unit that's being charged in the transaction comparable to the price that would have been charged in uncontrolled transactions or transactions to unrelated parties? Japan Co. may sell the exact same product to an unrelated party that it's selling to UK Co. And the most important thing about using a comparable uncontrolled price is really that comparability factor. You'd want to ask, what are all the features that are important for determining the price of the particular item you're selling, and making sure you control for that when you're looking for a comparable. So to give you a perspective on this, let's work through a little simple example, but using some real-world data. Imagine that what we're selling here is a television. And if I wanted to try to find an uncontrolled price for a television, I'd want that television to be very similar. And is it realistic to say I can find a comparable television? So I did this search based upon data available on September 17, 2014, looking at Amazon.com's website, and found out that there were a total of 2,876 LED TVs. But they're not all comparable to each other. Let's suppose our tested transaction was for a TV that had a size between 44 and 49 inches. Well, now there were only 388, so we've reduced the possible comparables a lot. We want a really good TV, so let's suppose we require that it have 1080p resolution. Now we're down to 325, so we've lopped off quite a few more. Let's suppose we had really tight comparability. We said this TV has built-in Wi-Fi and 3D. Now we're down to only 8 listings left of the computers available. And we look at these and we say, are they all comparable to each other? We found out that we could reject 2 more of them because they were listed as used, not new. So now we're down to just 6 TVs that were left in the list. So let's take a look at those as what kind of price might exist. And here are the prices for those 6 TVs. Now you might notice there that outlier. There's one TV listed at $3,500. I'm sure that if I dug deeper that I'm going to find out that this is not comparable for some reason. But I'm not going to get too focused on that. Commonly in transfer pricing we use an interquartile range, and that means we're going to get rid of the outliers anyway. But if we look among the remaining ones, they really do have a clustering effect here, and the 3 TVs in the middle really are going between $1,100 and $1,200. Now that's a pretty reasonable tight range, and in which case if the transaction between Japan Co. and UK Co. were in the range of the $1,105 to the $1,199 that we see among these 3, you'd have a very strong argument to say, well, that was the arm's length price. That's the price that you could have bought the TV from an unrelated party for. So it's a fairly simple and straightforward method, and it's very compelling, especially when you're trying to make the argument to a non-economist's audience. One observes the prices and then just does a direct comparison. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this video and the other videos in this series.